All right, we're here on Saturday. I'm a little late, but not by any giant degree that's unnoticeable. Or it is terribly noticeable. Um, let's see, I misplaced my phone. I was, I'm at Starbucks, and there's this woman. She has this very long hair that I think looks very nice. Uh, but of course, I won't say anything complimentary because we live in the Me Too era, and that would be considered, very, very crass. I'm not joking. I've said before. A lot of times, I'll just go to places, and you'll stumble across somebody, and some woman that has maybe either you think is very physically attractive. She has something she's wearing that's nice, and I really just always keep it to myself. 'Cause there's just been too many lies and attempts to besmirch my name or do me in, and I'm not in the mood for it. So anytime I see one of them that looks good, I'll make sure to keep it hush hush. Yeah, I come up here instead of the other one because the Wi-Fi is better. It is a bit of a further drive, but I don't mind it as long as the stuff isn't crap. So I'm always fascinated by the different styles that people have and just little things they put on and whatnot. Because she had this, it was like a dress shirt, but it wasn't buttoned up. How to explain it? It's like up here it's buttoned up, but then like toward the belly portion it's not, so you can kind of see her stomach at various points. Kotsky Merchant says, "Hey, what's up? Just beginning week. We're about to start week 3 of the homeless saga. So there's been a lot that has occurred, and now somebody's playing some very obviously copyright music, and I'm trying to not get demonetized, so I'll just roll the window up. I'm not in the mood for that. Every time I get around people, they want to start playing music and having songs flashing and all the rest of that weird stuff. It's annoying. Yeah, I think yeah, I only had one job interview this week. It was for some restaurant. They call it themselves because places can never give you the courtesy of at least pretending like you matter to them. They call it themselves what do you call it? Having like a open house where people just come in and get interviewed. So I go in there, I talk to the manager, who seems kind of like annoyed, and he asked me some questions. One of them is like, why do you think why should we hire you? Which I'll admit is like a very door. And I said before, like I'm someone who's very flexible, who comes whenever they're asked to show up. Um, willing to learn things because I'm not going to pretend I have experience with the food that they make. But I was just kind of interested in how at the end of that he said, okay, well, we in 48 hours we'll tell you if you've been hired or not. And then of course 48 hours pass, hear nothing back. And I was actually getting flashbacks of how because I mentioned this on last Saturday that there was a job interview I had where the people who were supposed to interview me on Zoom, and I hate that stupid website, they were late by about 20 minutes to where I just got up and left the call and was like, all right, well, I guess that was a dud. And then they called me like, oh, can we do the interview? I was like, all right, fine, let me get back to my computer. And the lady went through all the different stuff with regard to the job and it was like, oh, in 48 hours you'll know if we have decided to move forward with your application. And then that same amount of time passes and you hear nothing back. I swear, man, it's just these jobs are just they're a joke. The employers are a joke. The people that interview you are definitely a gag because they a lot of times they have you show up on these platforms like Zoom and they don't even know how to work their own crap. Um, I've actually had two interviews that basically were both canceled in the last 4 weeks because the person who was supposed to interview me didn't show up to their own crap on time. There was one where it was like over the phone, and me and the guy were playing phone tag with each other for like a whole day until he told me to call back the next day after a certain some kind of crap. And another one had Zoom last it was either yeah the week before this last one, and he was talking about how I'm in the room and I don't see you. Where are you? And he was like, I had to make a whole other account. Can we reschedule this to be on Monday? And then on Monday I sent a message. I get no response. So it's just more of the same old crap, man. It's just these jobs are the equivalent of being on a hamster wheel. That's what they are. It's just you running in circles trying to impress these people who have no actual desire or interest in hiring you, but they have to meet their little quota of doing their little stupid interviews and pretending that they're so fascinated and interested in getting new people who they're going to throw away in a few weeks. But shh, don't tell anybody. I'd say the worst one though was probably the one I had this week because that place was about a 30-minute drive, and my navigational system was acting up to where it wouldn't pop up on the car's screen. So that meant I had to hold my phone in one hand while driving the whole time to make sure I was in the right place, which tends to happen if I go somewhere that's like not an area I'm familiar with. And then the parking was also obnoxious because a lot of times with these places they want you to pay for parking, and the only time there's ever like a way to not do that is if you drive into a neighborhood, and then sometimes the neighborhoods have signs up where they're like, no parking at 8 to 10, no parking at 8 to 4. Just little different stuff they put up to tell people that they can't be parked in a certain place at a certain time. It's all just really annoying, because it means you have to walk further to get over there, and then you might even be late because of traffic. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong with these different damn interviews. It's really sad. But yeah, I put up with it. I braved the storm, and I showed up to the interview on time. Spoke to the guy for about 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then it went nowhere as I predicted it would, because that's what these people do. I thought it was interesting that he had me write my like contact information on a piece of paper, and on the paper there were two other people there, and I was like, yeah, this is definitely not going anywhere because when there's multiple people that are seeking the same position, and sometimes they don't even have some of them have experience, others don't, but it's like you can bet the ones that don't have experience are probably going to be the ones that get the most discriminated against as far as, hey, we're not going to even bother with you. I had a conversation with a guy a couple of years ago where we were talking about how a lot of jobs have created something of a, I don't know if you can call it a Pandora's box, where they want people who have experience, but then since none of them ever hire a person who doesn't, then the person never gets experience. Like it just kind of creates this well of like producing the same results, where like because no one wants to give that person a chance, then they're never going to get the experience that these people claim they want. I just thought that was interesting. Let me see if I can adjust this in a different way. How did we have this formatted last time? I think I had it more direct, like this. I always have to remind myself that when you move stuff around, I don't hear any noises, but apparently noises are very prevalent for the like when you do the playback, or if somebody's just like listening to it, they can hear like rattling and whatnot. So that's probably the thing I forget the most. Well, the stupid music is off, so I can roll the window back down. But yeah, these interviews have been just stagnant. As of for a lot of times, if I don't apply to like 10 places a day, it's because a lot of places I've already applied to, um, and it just sort of becomes very repetitive to just keep applying over and over. And getting the same result over and over. Just very redundant. But yeah, the number one lie about employers is that they're looking for people. That's always the biggest scam they run, where they make it sound like they're so excited for these new employees and they're smiling in your face and giggling. I had another place that called me yesterday, and they wanted to do an interview this upcoming Tuesday. And I was trying to, like, I didn't say this to him, but I was thinking to myself, they're going to be the person who interviews me on Tuesday, so they're going to call me on Friday to schedule an interview in 4 days. That's going to be probably like 10, 50. When they could, like, I guess what I'm confused by is they could have just called me and done it on Friday. We didn't have to wait until Tuesday to do whatever. People just, I don't know what their deal is. But yeah, over the phone interviews are always I find them preferable simply because I do get tired of driving to all these different places. Sometimes they're very far away and getting the same result. It all just gets very redundant. I had a conversation with this one relative who I tend to have a higher opinion of than most of the other ones, and they were. I'm telling you, I'll never not be astonished by just how some of the most basic stuff that you can form a consensus around. There's people who can look at it and be like, well, this isn't that big of a deal, or this isn't that bad. So I made the point, and I've said this repeatedly: the events that happened were initiated by this person increasing the amount I was supposed to pay each month 5 times what it already was. So you go from paying this person wants you to go from paying 100 something to 500. And I was explaining how if you did this with any other person anywhere, um, you would be seen as ridiculous. Like somebody that pays 300 a month being told, hey, now you have to pay what 1,500. You're crazy as hell. A person who pays 200 a month being told they have to pay 1,000, like that. You get my point, that it's such a substantial increase that if you're an unemployed person, it's even, like it's just, it's too damn big, and it's not something that is tenable for somebody that doesn't have a job. So, and I also said that this was part of the person's effort to try and like make me feel motivated to go out and get a position or something, even though, as I've explained before, being unemployed is not a damn choice. But that seems to fall on deaf ears. So this person tries to say, "Oh, 500 is not bad," and they try to tell me about how anywhere you go, you have to pay a price, and I'm like, God damn, because I really sometimes feel as if when I talk to adults, it's like I'm speaking either to children or individuals who just things like go in one ear and out the other. My basis for leaving was that amount was something that was not sustainable for a person who is unemployed. Being unemployed month after month, we can reasonably infer that that's going to be the same scenario for the next couple of months. Being someone who's been hired and fired from jobs after 2 to 4 weeks, we can reasonably infer that if we get hired somewhere else, it's probably going to be 2 to 4 weeks before they tell us to give them the pink slip. So, in the event that I paid 500 this month, next month, if I'm still unemployed, I'm going to have to pay another 500, and it's going to be something else that I cannot do because progressively I'm going to run out of money having to pay $1,000 every month on top of other expenses just to stay, with that person. Who, by the way, when you are unable to afford this anymore, they're not going to say, "Oh, it's okay, you helped me." So, no, they're going to throw you out anyway. They're going to say they don't believe you and then get rid of you. That's what they do. So me doing what I did was basically just speeding up the inevitable, because it is inevitable that if someone is having to pay such a high amount with no job, they're going to run out of money. That's what I said. I'm really tired of this stuff, man. People can defend any ridiculous, goofy, nonsensical decision that somebody else makes. It is so sad. And I'm gonna put this in. I'm working on another on the triangle scam video, but I'm gonna put it in there. If I was a landlord, or I was like over somebody, in terms of like I pay the main rent and I have them pay something, and then I said, all right, I'm mad at you, so now you will pay 5 times as much as what you already pay. No, no, no damn body on the internet, in real life, or in any other, or in the solar system would say, oh, what he's doing isn't that bad. He's just making this unemployed person pay 5 times they were already paying. Nobody would defend that stupid crap, and they shouldn't. But again, when something happens to me, it's a okay. It's always fine. This person will in 2 seconds say they're worried about you. Oh, you are sleeping in this, and I am concerned. But then they can't be concerned enough to say to that person that is the reason it's happening. Hey, don't charge him so goddamn much, otherwise he wouldn't have left. So people, they'll take a moral stand when there's something that is, what's the way of putting it, that is directly, like, if something is not, how to explain this, when there's a thing that a person doesn't have to worry about and it doesn't affect them, they don't care. But if there's a way for them to get involved that can like cause them to be in a position of discomfort, they won't do it. They don't take a stand ever. They just go and they sit there and they wag their finger. I'm telling you, I don't know how many times I've had someone who, I had that same person did this thing at the start of the month, talking about I'll help you get a job, and then what does their help entail? They send you some links sometimes to jobs where you're not even qualified for them. They want, like, they want you to have a degree or whatever. Um, and then when you don't get one, they wag their finger and tell you that you need to pay 5 times the amount you're already paying. And like I said, I don't know how anyone looks at that and justifies it, but I already explained before that people hate men, including ones that are members of their own family in a lot of cases. So I'm not too surprised. Like, pretty much, I've accepted that no matter what screwed up thing happens, whether it's because someone breaks their agreement or someone else, like, botches something, I'm going to be blamed for it no matter what. I am clicking on this thing. I'm trying to. I don't know what. I was trying to go to the live chat of this stream, but it won't. The YouTube has really just made itself really annoying. I see a Kotsky merchant left. YouTube had a new feature where it used to be you just click this button and it pulls out the live chat from a stream, and they have some kind of thing where now, you click like the bottom part to make it come out. It's really weird. Somebody actually was parked in the. They left. The spot they have was the one I found preferable to my current one. I'm still here just exchanging text with family members. A loved one recently passed, and everyone in the family is grieving. It's not like mine where everybody sticks out their finger to try and see what they can get. Told you I have one of the like my friend said I had the worst he'd ever seen. It's so sad, man. If somebody passes and people think they can get something out of them, they just stick their hand up like that to like begin the process of trying to extract something. It's really sad, dude. It's that's why I say I'll never not be amazed by just the complete lack of humanity you see in people. Like even when there's times, because my thing is, if you're going to be a gold digger, which is what a lot of these relatives are, at the very least, like be a good actor. Because there are some chicks, for example, who are gold diggers. They can really make you, well, not make you, but they can do a really good job at trying to convince you that they care about you and want to be with you and love you so much, and you're the idol that they've all, I'm talking about, right? Like they can at least pretend that they're interested in you for something beyond financial gain. But with a lot of these people, they'll really sit around someone who's sick and be like, all right, if I just talk to this person long enough, I can squeeze myself some coins. Yeah. And it's really sad. That's why I said I'm not even surprised, because there's such a like there's something in people, and it's always been there. This isn't the thing that just started, but there's something in people where a lot of times they have very little to no empathy whatsoever, and they engage in activities that are purposely designed to be as screwed up as possible. I swear, it feels like sometimes you come up here and you start seeing people that look similar to each other, and you're like, oh, is that the same person back again? Have they returned? Not back again from like earlier today, but like from another time I came up here. I don't know what it is, but there's something in people that causes them to behave in ways that are just wrong, like just nasty, I'm really sorry you have to deal with that. It is what it is. I tried to make it work. I really did. I paid the amount I was supposed to every month. Uh, this whole last month, I looked for a job like crazy. We had like 2 or 3 weeks where there was an interview every goddamn day, um, and sometimes multiple interviews on top of each other. And I'm just tired. And and like I guess what gets me is that I expect employers to be like whatever, because I've said before I've gone to interviews in the past where the employer was so lousy they didn't even show up to the interview. Like you come to their building, and if someone's there, it's an underling or some other coworker that's not running the place. Um, and it's like we've gotten to a point where even the people that are related to you don't like they're not sympathetic. They're like, you must have done something, or you quit every job you take even though you've never actually done that, but still, just anything they want to believe and want to create in their head to explain away why this crap keeps happening, they will. And that's why I said I really, like, these people are shocked I don't talk to them, but it's because there's no point. If someone's just going to make stuff up about you with no evidence, what's the point of engaging them in the conversation? Some people are really rotten. It upsets me that they can bring themselves to act with such inhumanity. I mean, they won't, like, a lot of these places when you go for an interview, they can't even show up to their own thing on time. They won't even like appear when they say, "Hey, Akatsuki merchant, let's meet at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time." You come there at 3 Pacific Standard Time, you're sitting right up in that room, just waiting, waiting, and waiting. And you'll sit there for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30, and just nothing. So then you say, to hell with it, I'm leaving. Then I call, oh, I'm so sorry that I wasn't there. Hey, how can we do this another? And you're like, well, now you've already wasted two instances of my time. Because I've never been hired by somewhere that like didn't show up to an interview. Like every time someone doesn't show up to an interview and then tries to do like the whole, oh, can we try again thing, that's always a red flag because they're never going to. And I'm just saying, I've noticed this pattern where every time somewhere is like, oh, I made a mistake, I didn't show up on time, they never actually hire you anyway. So that's why for me, from now on, when they don't show up, I'm not even going to bother trying to call them back. Because they don't care one way or the other. And in those instances, it's just more blatant than it usually is. In those instances, they're like very forthright about how much they don't give a damn. Where they can't even show up on time to their own interview. Interviews are just such a pain, man. They're the worst. Man. Yeah, this one lady that she was waiting here for probably from the time I started streaming, she was waiting like a whole 15 or 20 minutes. I was like, damn, this is taking forever. They'll have somebody just sit there and wait hour after hour after hour, you know. But yeah, I was hoping that this stuff with this person would settle itself, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen this week. I mentioned that someone else is trying to be the mediator. Um, I'm going to see if we can reschedule it because I really don't want to go over there on Monday night because I have places I park where it can be hard to find a parking spot, and there's like a thing if you park in certain areas you can get towed. So I try to not park places. You know what I'm talking about? It's like I have like certain places I'm trying to park that if I leave during the evening, which is when this person wants to do their meeting thing, I won't be able to retain the spot. So I'll um, I'll probably try to call them and see if we can reschedule it. First they said it was Sunday, then they switched it to Monday. I said, hell, it should be next weekend. That's when everybody is going to be the least busy. Your shipment could not be delivered. There is an unpaid duty fee. Oh, I hate those stupid spam messages. They get on my nerves. Where they try to convince you that you're like, I don't even think I have anything coming in the mail, and they're talking about a shipment fee was not paid. Or they'll be like, oh, your Netflix account has been locked. It's like I don't even use Netflix. They always call themselves warning you about some feature or something that you have that they've struck down. Like I don't have any of this stuff, so whatever they're talking about, I know is a lie. Mm. But yeah, I feel very bad for Akatsuki Merchant. I'm sorry that your relative passed. You have my condolences. Um, I tell you, if it wasn't for one passing, a lot of this stuff over here wouldn't be happening. That's for sure. So I know all it takes is one person not being there for things to just go to crap. I can assure you, I've tried very hard to reverse the way things are. And I just think it's so sad that you can realistically, like go to some place, live with a person, do what they want, and then if they get mad or pissed off or angry, whatever, they try to modify the original agreement that they had with you and design it in such a way as to screw you over to like try and exact revenge. And I'm like, I don't understand how anyone can look at this situation and not think there's something wrong with the person who does that. I really don't. You have to be just the most incapable of empathy individual that exists to even be able to try and do the, oh, there's two sides to this. And that's why I said that one guy on that stream, his days are numbered in this channel, I'll tell you that. Because I said before, I think there's some stuff that just is no one's place to try and tell you isn't as bad as you think it is. I do believe that. My family has their messed up ways, but nowhere near as bad as yours. Well, hey, I've been. That's not the first time I've been told that. Oh, I'm sorry. We need to follow the Jove advice. Remember, you should give at least some thought as to what could they be misinterpreting as disrespect, or what actual basis could they have. You seem like a genuine dude, but there's always something. I swear these people just them and their whataboutism. It's so sad. It's like, hey, homeless person, why don't you try to give some perspective or thought into the concern? Why don't you concern yourself with the personal feelings of the individual who is directly responsible for you being homeless? Pay no attention to the fact that they give so little of a damn about you that they're fine with you being in this scenario. Didn't even give any to me or my siblings. Just keep it for her. Oh, my grandma, though, was looking to profit from the death of my mother. She sold her big flat screen TV that she had in her living room and kept the money. Didn't even give any to me or my siblings, just kept it to herself and claimed she was using it to take care of us, but we didn't see a damn penny of it. Oh, yeah. Listen, there's still some ongoing, matters with regard to these people, but trust me, I have had a pretty similar situation when it comes to money that is either directly left to you or it's supposed to be like split between multiple people, and then like one person gets their hands on it and just starts shilling it all out. So I'm no stranger to the greed. That's why I said it's so scary, because it's not some evil lawyer taking all your money or trying to not give you some money. It's your own relative who's like, oh, you thought you get some out of here too? Ah, ha, ha, don't make me laugh. By the way, there actually is a. I was gonna say I don't know Akatsuki merchant. I don't know if you remember the dingbat with the baby, but uh, there was an update where about a few days ago they were having some kind of like pain or some kind of like swelling from their throat, and they were talking to somebody over the. I was like I happened to be there, and the person they were talking to, uh, after they hung up on them, they theorized that the reason they're having swelling from the throat is because they were performing something that starts with a C. Uh, and it's like, listen, I don't derive joy from the pain of others. Like I really don't. I'm more amused by the fact that they call this person only to like talk about how sick they are, not to ask, not to like see how the other person is doing, which already is one of the reasons why I don't like a lot of people that because they just do fake stuff like that. But then also just the idea that um, they got a disease from performing an act that whatever. Like all of it just the fact that like that was what that person theorized openly, like, oh, maybe they got it from doing this. Super selective about the money, but expected me and my brothers to report Eddie and all money we got. And she lost her mind when I got money from my father and didn't tell her. Well, yeah, you were supposed to split with your grandma. You're supposed to give her some change. Supposed to hit her up with some cold bills. I mean, I don't know who you think you are, thinking you can just keep your money away from her, but she calls the shots. I tell you, not to go off topic, but I'm never not going to be amazed by just how ignorant a lot of people are, and how even the ones that go to school and have college degrees, you can ask them about very basic people, and they just have no idea, like just no clue. Um, and I just think it's really sad. Like I told you before that having people, I'm gonna say this. I don't care who gets mad. There should not be any African Americans who are over the age of 18 who don't know who Jesse Jackson is. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. He's been around for too damn long and done too much consequential stuff for them to just have no idea who that is. And we talked about it before, Akatsuki Merchant. They can name all these damn singers and rappers, but if you ask them to name his like important African American historical figures or activists or people who've been involved in the any semblance of a fight for equality, they just don't know. They'll literally only be able to tell you maybe two or three people, and it's so damn sad, man. Because like I said, this isn't like the South in the 50s or 40s. This is the era where everybody has a smartphone. They all have computers. They can all go and look this stuff up anytime they want, and they just couldn't be damned to do it. And I'm never gonna not be disappointed by that. And that's why when I did the video about Tucker Carlson getting 100 million views on Twitter, and I asked my friend if he knew who that was, and he was like, "Oh, the name sounds familiar." I asked because it really goes to show you that in a lot of cases, and that's why I always say fame is like a subjective, very relative thing. You can have people who have been recognized in very distinguished ways. that there have been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of news articles written about, that have been on TV dozens of times, and you still will have people, even people that are adults, that have like no clue who that is. I mean, it really drives me nuts. Because, like I said, what are we supposed to do to combat the ignorance? Do I have to become a broken record and tell every single person around me, hey, here's this person, here's what they did. They did, like, I just don't understand why there's such a prevailing ignorance in society. I really don't. Because it seems to get passed down from one generation to the next. I mean, I asked this guy, he couldn't even name the mayor of his own damn city. Like the current, listen, I get where people can't name mayors from 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, but the current mayor of his own damn city, he'd know who that was, or his senators, or his governor. It's like, God. And remember, these are adults in their 20s. These aren't little kids. A world of information at their fingertips, and they choose. Yes, they do. This guy said that he thought the United States, which Akatsuki merchant, you about some Megumi, you understand that in the U.S. we have about 330 million people, and roughly in most states, somewhere between a million people and or above, right? So, like for example, California has 40 million people, and then because California is the biggest state, you can infer each state has a smaller number of people in it. This guy thought there were a billion people in the United States. And I tried to explain to him, you have to be very like really nuts to think that, because if California, the largest state in the union, only has 40 million, which isn't even half of um, you know, a tenth of a billion, then where would you even get that idea? I mean, you get what I'm saying, of how these people just they assume something, they get an idea in their head, and then they can't be bothered to go and see if it's true or not. Um, and he was like, "Oh, I thought New York was the biggest." It's like, why would you think that? And it's like, this is a guy who was around for the last what, 3, 4, 5 presidential elections. In presidential elections, the state that has the most representatives is the one that gives the most electoral votes, and the state that has the most representatives and therefore the most electoral votes is California. And the reason California has the most electoral votes and most representatives is because it's the biggest damn state in the union. Like, even the most basic of stuff. New York's not the smallest. New York is like the third or fourth. It's in the top 5, but it's nowhere close to being as big as California. That's why I said I don't know where. And like, it drives me crazy, because if you want to know how big a state is, how big the states are in order of what's biggest to smallest, you can go on Google and type in list of largest to smallest states, and there you go. I'm gonna go on there right now and read them off, just to show you how simple it is. Now people choose to not know things. I'm gonna type in list of largest U.S. states on Google, and let's see what I get. And you get an article from WikiPiss, area by state. Let's see here. Okay, that's a list of states by area. I'm talking about population. Yeah, I should have phrased that differently. Largest U.S. states by population. I'll type that in. And then we got another WikiPiss article. And there they go. They have them in order. Biggest one, California. Second biggest, Texas. Third biggest, Florida. Fourth, New York. Then Pennsylvania. Then Illinois. Then Ohio. Then Georgia. Then North Carolina. Then Michigan. Then New Jersey. then Virginia, then Washington, Arizona, Tennessee, Massachusetts, Indiana, Missouri, Maryland, Wisconsin, Colorado, Minnesota, South Carolina, Alabama, Louisiana, Kentucky, Oregon, Oklahoma, Connecticut, Utah, Iowa, Nevada, Arkansas, Mississippi, Kansas, New Mexico, Nebraska, Idaho, West Virginia, Hawaii, New Hampshire, Maine, Montana, Rhode Island, Delaware, South Dakota, North Dakota, Alaska, Vermont, Wyoming. I mean, like I said, if you don't know how big a state is, you can just go online and look it up. You don't have, it's not like you have to go and like call a representative for some agency that tracks population sizes. So that's why I swear to you that people who don't know things in the digital age don't know them because they can't be bothered to look them up. I mean, I just think all of it is really sad. I really believe that. I think all of it is really pathetic and awful and just not tenable to what I would like to see from people. It really isn't. Where a lot of very basic black people, it doesn't even have to be like from like let's say the 19th century. Like, we're not even talking about Frederick Douglass or Harriet Tubman. Um, but just like basic ones who've been like people who feasibly could still be alive for like let's say like under 100 today. Like a lot of these people just have no idea about. And it's so weird when you consider that thanks to the King holiday, there are so many people who are again familiar with King, but I bet you a lot of them couldn't even tell you what his wife's name was. And she was around a hell of a lot longer. Kotsky Merchant says, and when these people do research stuff, they don't do it correctly. They'll take headlines of the context without reading the actual article title, misinterpret statistics, and unironically buy um, buy into lies. Well, a lot of them are just too lazy to even like investigate and see if the lie is true or not. Like I told you, my friend said, "Oh, the Queen died," and this is like at the start of last year. And I knew instinctively that if she did pass, it would be all over the news, as it eventually would end up being later that year. I go and I look for news articles on. I go, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Well, she is elderly." But see, that's one of those things where if he wasn't so lazy, he could have just gone and looked it up and seen if she had actually passed. But a lot of these people, not only do they not care if they have something wrong, but they'll like basically they care enough to mention it in passing, but not enough to actually like look into it. Like, hey, did this really just happen and nobody's talking about it? And these are some ignorant bastards, I tell you. And like I said, these aren't little kids who I make. I am much more sympathetic toward children because they haven't been around that long. They're going to school. They don't watch the news. Like I get it. They're in their playtime phase, okay? But like adults who in some cases have gone to college, they they don't even know basic people. Oh, there's this couple right in front of me. They're all hugged up. The guy's like touching the woman's back. And stuff like this is so obnoxious because my thing is, and of course, I won't say anything, but it's just, I guess, from my perspective, if you love someone so much and you're so um, honored to be with them and it's great and amazing, why don't you do that at home? Because when people start doing a little touchy feely stuff in public, they're just doing that to try to make you feel bad about their little, you know, their nonsense. Like, ooh, look at us, we're so in love. Yeah, whatever. So I'm just gonna look away. But anyways, as I was saying, there's like I could put on one hand. Well, no, not one hand. I'll say two hands. Just basic black historical figures that I am very confident of a majority of young African Americans have no idea about, and it's really sad. It is really sad. No, their idea of research is going and like this guy was like, oh, I could just ask you. It's like, no, you should be able to not be so lazy. Oh, that's a nice skirt. Wow, I didn't even know it was a skirt. It's like a little wrap. Anyways, sorry, I always have to remind myself I can't when I praise stuff to make sure I'm not too loud or too obvious in my uh, you know decent comments. But yeah, like I was saying, a lot of these people know King, and what's really sad is that for as long as Lewis was around, there's a lot of them who don't even know Lewis, even though he was in the House for 30 years. One of the longest serving House members, I think, period. I mean, well, I know some have been there for 50 or 40, but 30 is still a long time. That's 15 terms. Um, but it's like even that, like those two, you'll have some who don't even know who Lewis is. And Lewis had a what, 40, 50 year career? Absolutely pathetic. Oh, I've known who Maya Angelou was since I was a boy because I read the I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings back when I was in eighth grade. I did a report on the book. So yes, I'm very well versed with her. She will never be forgotten as long as I'm alive. That was one of the best books ever, in my opinion, out of any of the ones I've read. And I'm mostly in the biographies at this point, like reading stuff about people's lives. But that was a very well done novel about tragedy and being taken advantage of, and just it was great. I want to read it again. Honestly, it's just a lot of times I have other stuff I'm reading, but I definitely am familiar with her. She died when I was in it's like 2014, so I was like 10th grade. So I'll always remember her particularly. Um, you know, just to give you an idea of how well versed I am. But just going to activists, right? A lot of them, they all know who King is. Some of them know Rosa Parks, right? Some of them do. Not most. I would wager to say about half and half probably. Um, but when you start getting into some of the other people that were around in that period, that's when their minds start drawing a blank. So like none of them know Abernathy, Ralph Abernathy, not and that's really pathetic because he's the one that was King's right hand man. I called him the VP of the Civil Rights Movement. He took over the SCL, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference after King's death. Very influential person that should be remembered, but I digress. So they don't know who Ralph Abernathy is, even though he was King's right hand man. Um, and if we start getting into the big six, they don't know who Whitney Young was. They don't know who A. Philip Randolph was. They don't know James Farmer. I would wager to say that they probably do. Yeah, they don't know Roy Wilkins either. I'm not even going to try to pretend that there's a possibility of that. Um, and it's like, okay, those were people who were mainly active in the 60s. Some made it to the 70s, but like, okay, those are, with the exception of Lewis, those were from eras before their time. Okay, even though I still think that's bull, that's BS because they know who King is, even though he has been active in literally half a century because he gets mentioned all the time. So whatever, but I'm gonna grant them at least like the recency bias. Okay, but then when you start getting into people who were like then when you start extending it to people who made it to the 2000s and in some cases are still alive, it's even more absurd. Okay, so we've named 7 people. So let's talk about again Jackson. Jackson was the first African American to run for president and win multiple contests. When he ran in 88, he doubled the results he had from the last time around and came in second place. To where for a while in the race, he was the front runner. 7 million votes. But okay, let's let that ignorance slide too. Okay, let's let that one slide as well. You have Julian Bond, who was actually the first black person to ever get what was it, delegate votes for vice president during the 1968 national convention, but he couldn't accept it because he was too young. Um, but okay, let's give you that one as well. And then Andrew Young, who was the first African American UN ambassador to the UN, was mayor of Atlanta, ran for governor of Georgia. You know, it's like I don't understand how these people justify their nonsense. I really don't. You have and like we don't even have to make a giant list. It could be less than 20 people. And we'd say, okay, you should at least know who these people. You don't have to know everything about them. You don't have to be some big scholar on their lives. You know, that would be appreciated, but you should at least have some passing familiarity with who that is, right? No idea. And then I told him about the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has, in its entire 200-year history, only had 3 African Americans on it: Thurgood Marshall, Clarence Thomas, and Ketanji Brown. And he said to me, "Oh, I know the Supreme Court. There's that black justice." I said, "You know his ethnicity, but you don't know his name." "Oh, he stands out in pictures." God. And then I was explaining to him the significance of the Secretary of State and how that's one of the most important cabinet positions, and how we've only ever had 2 black secretaries of state, which is Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice. And he was, obviously unable to name those. That's why I said, man, the whole thing is just sad. And like I said, a lot of these people are alive. So that's why I had this joke and I was making fun of them. I said, when people ask you to name some black historical figures, you say I only know Martin, Barack, Michelle, and Kamala, like that, because that's all he knows. I wouldn't even be shocked if he doesn't know. Like I said earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't know Coretta. I would be totally, it would be in line with that same low information, no attempt at learning stuff, identity that he has amassed. I wouldn't be shocked at all. Oh man, I gotta tell you, the Jackson one is really sad to me because in a lot of ways, his 2 presidential campaigns made it possible for Obama to later, win. Um, and he's one of the few unelected of like people I can think of who's like not an actor, not a singer, just activists that whenever they get involved with something, it commands the attention of the media. Because you know damn well if I decide tomorrow that I'm going to be an activist and I go and stage a rally in front of the I don't know, the state capitol, maybe the event itself will get covered, but unless I'm the speaker, I'm the person who is directly in front of everything, they're not going to mention me. But see, Jackson is so commanding of attention that he can go to an event and not even be the main person that's talking. And as long as they see him, they'll still try to get his opinion or try to like ask him what he's doing there. He went to when I don't know if you remember Kotsky Merchant, but right after Trump's inauguration, they had the Women's March on Washington, which was like all these women that protested him taking office, and Jackson went there, and people did an interview with him. These people love access. Oh, these people have access to information that was inconceivable to people 200 or 500 or 300 years ago, most were ignorant unless you were born into a wealthy family. Right. And I don't fault them for being ignorant because back then it was much harder to get information. Like for example, if I lived in 19 hell, let's use like a fairly like a recent year that people from then could still be alive. Let's say I lived in 1952. And in 1952, you ask me what was let me give you an example. What's Abraham Lincoln's birthday? Now, in the current era, I can go on Google and figure it out, like that. But back then, a person who wants to know that has to go and find a biography of Lincoln. So do you see how even like a little thing like that, there was still much more involved with getting information about it? That's why I said I'm sympathetic to people who did like ignorance of previous eras was okay to me. It was. It wasn't something I'm glad happened. It wasn't something that I would prefer to happen. But I'm much more understanding of it because I know that the tools that are available now were not available to people back then. I know that. But now we live in an era where the wealthy don't have a monopoly on wealth, and there are people who choose to be ignorant. I think you meant on information, who choose to be ignorant anyways. It's frustrating. It really is. And like I said, man, these aren't stupid people who can't remember anything. Because guess what? They know all the rappers. They know they know like all the major black actors, like Samuel L. and Will Smith, for example. Just they know all these people in the entertainment industry. But as far as someone who's actually done something to advance the cause of you know African Americans, whether historically or in the contemporary, they have no clue, no idea. They're like, and like I said, I expect for a bunch of I hate saying this, but like I get where other ethnic groups don't see it as a big deal to know different important African Americans in American history. I understand that. But it's like, and I don't again, I'm not trying to make this about race, but I just want you to understand something. I can't imagine having lived to see a black president and then not being at least a little curious as to if anyone tried before. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I can't imagine living to see a black president, a first African American president ever, and then not at least thinking like, "Hey, has anyone ever tried that before? Has that ever happened previously? Has anyone ever made an effort before this? Is this the first time someone black has run?" I would ask myself that. Everyone wants to live in their bubble, but living in your own bubble means ignoring and directly opposing reality. Oh yeah, I told you we live in an era now where people, and you'll start to notice this, people who don't know something, they can't even admit that they don't know it. Like I asked him what do you know what single payer healthcare is, right? He's like, it's healthcare for single parents. It's like, dude, just say you don't know it. Like I because like I said, there was a time where, and this is still a thing that happens. If I know I don't know something, before I admit it to anybody else, I'll admit it to myself. I even did a stream one time about how I didn't know much about trade. Like free. I hear the terms free trade and fair trade get tossed around, and people talking about NAFTA and TPP and the USMCA, but they never really like go into why is this one good, why is this one bad. Um, but again, that's something that because I admitted I don't know this to myself, I was able to then go and look into it and figure out and learn more about it. When you convince yourself that you know everything that matters, or you know, like you don't need to know anything else, then you're gonna just you're gonna be ignorant. That's why I said it's just sad. Hey, a Kotsky merchant, could you imagine? Because you know we've like you've already said, but like imagine being African American, and let's say you're like 18, 17, or even like early 20s, right? And you lived like you were born before there were any black presidents. Like there had never been an African American that had won the White House ever. And so you see that happen, that happens during your lifetime, right? And yet for some damn reason, you never think to yourself, wait a second. Like imagine living to see the first black president, but then never wondering if anyone tried before that, like not having no clue as to who those people, because I never seen these people mention Shirley Chisholm or Jackson. So it's just sad, man. Like right now, Elder is running on the Republican side. I don't think he has any chance in hell of winning, and I've already explained why. But in the 0.9 0.1% chance that he did win, I would talk about Alan Keyes and Herman Cain and Ben. You know what I mean? Like I would mention those people. I would say, hey, they were his forefathers as far as they tried, but to get there and they didn't make it. But them trying opened the door for him. Even though, like I said, I would say that. I mean, we already talked before. If you look at actual vote totals, Jackson did way better than any of those three did during both of his campaigns. Like, so he's the only person that didn't win a presidential run. He's like him and Sanders um, are among the few people, and I guess also Ted Kennedy because he won multiple states against the incumbent president. They're among the few people who didn't win a presidential primary, let alone the general election, that should be able to brag about how well they did. Because, like I said, everybody kept calling Jackson a long shot. He has no chance. He's too liberal. They're not going to nominate someone, and he got millions of votes the first time. Came back the second time and got twice as many votes. And I do believe that if he had chosen to run in '92, um, considering that Perot and Bush split the vote, I think he would have won. If I don't know if he would have been able to beat the other people in that primary, but I do believe he made it to the general that time around. Any Democrat could have won. Yeah, they love living in that bubble, man. Like I said, I'll never not be saddened by the ignorance of the people around me. I really won't. But truthfully speaking, if there's a singular God, people always want to abridge history so much. Damn, I didn't even mention Sharpton because Sharpton ran for office multiple times, and he started what was it the National Youth Movement at 14 when he was underage. Sometimes I have to remind myself, like, just there are so many important Black people, and it's like it's not even. I don't know. I just think the whole thing is sad, man. But yeah, I would say that out of most of them, that Jackson's had like the biggest amount of impact. That like besides you know King and Obama, probably for the reasons I described earlier. Like he's been involved in a lot of stuff. which is why it's all the more frustrating that you have people who don't know who that is. Whatever. I'm just, I'll never not be disappointed by people and their ignorance. Man. And of course, they know all the serial killers too. But if you want to get into some activists who have actually done things for them, then they draw a blank. That reminds me, I'm gonna see if I can send Jackson a message and be like, "Hey, can you write a memoir?" I'm not even joking. When he does his I'm forgetting the website's name, but they're like, "Oh, if you want to contact the Reverend, you can send him I'm gonna send him one. I'm gonna say, hey, please write a memoir. Um, you've had a very significant, consequential life. I'd love to see you reflect on it. You know, whatever length that you prefer." I can't imagine living to be 80 and not having a memoir that's at least 1,000 pages, like, because there's just like so much that's happened. It's like those people who say there aren't any black superheroes despite the irony of them that exist. Like, you can't say that there aren't any black heroes when you don't even know if there are any. There's a whole bunch of black people that are very respectable and worth admiring and looking up to and having a high opinion of. Like I said, everybody that I mentioned, with the possible except, because we already talked about Obama being a war criminal and taking us from 2 wars to 7, but like, I understand where he could be seen as a role model in the classical sense of like, I want my child to be very successful and put on a little suit and tie, and like, I'm talking about, like the general sense of well-spoken person who appears to be very successful. Like, I get where that's a thing people can look at objectively and say, I want my kid to do that. But I mean, again, whether it's King or Jackson or Julian Bond or any of these people, um, it all just comes down to, these are individuals who, when they got arrested, it wasn't over a DUI or doing something evil. It protesting or some other form of nonviolent civil disobedience, and that's respectable. That's something that were I to have kids, and I don't think that'll ever happen because we already talked about how lousy chicks are in the modern era, but that's the type of thing I can get behind and say I'm proud of, he or she for being involved with. So there are a lot of black people who are worth looking up to. Um, I will say that. But yeah, you can't have any black superheroes if you're too damn ignorant to look any of them up. Because my first exposure to Jackson came from my grandfather. He met with him and Al Sharpton at various points in meetings when they would come to my home state. So, and then Sharpton had his own show on TV. You know, but you get what I'm saying, that these are people who are not hard to find involved with stuff. But even if they weren't, it still is ridiculous that all of these different people know who King is, but they don't know any of the people around him. Like, really, like, I think about his entourage in Memphis. He had Abernathy with him, who again took over after he passed. I would say the most notable thing Abernathy probably did was the memoir, because that's the book that everybody craps on for 2 damn pages. Even though it actually is, from what I've read, is a really good book. I've read some of it, not, but it's like, okay, whatever. He had his main man with him there, who nobody remembers, just total blank. He had the person referring to Jackson who would end up becoming the first African American in US history to win multiple states during a presidential primary, and the person referring to Andrew Young, who would be the first African American ambassador to the UN. That's those are some pretty hefty accomplishments by all three of them. I guess Abernathy probably not as much, but he still is important just because of like I'll say this, he was, besides King and the other members of the Big Six, probably the most prominent one during the civil rights movement, from the Montgomery bus boycotts to the assassination, like during that 13-year period. And then after the fracturing that comes from King's passing, he's kind of in the leadership role a little bit, but it's starting to like branch off to others. Because him and Jackson had the falling out in 71. So I'd say that but you know what I'm saying, that like, okay, even if I admit he wasn't as accomplished as the others would ultimately go on to be, his contributions should not be ignored at all. And dude, if we start talking about black office holders, I'm gonna get even more depressed because, like I said, I don't know how any black person lives in California and they don't know who Tom Bradley was. Like that's nuts. The first black mayor of the second largest city in the whole damn country, the longest serving one, almost, what was it, 20 years, 73 to 93. A gubernatorial candidate who lost by 1 point. I don't, like I said, I don't, people that they don't make any sense to me. They're really weird. Well, they're not weird, they're just ignorant. I'm just imagining Elder winning the election, and then we get a third, we get the Larry Elder Presidential Library and Museum, and it's like it would be funny because that'll make us tied for Texas with the most presidential museums, and it will also be comedic because it's the third Republican one. So like in this blue state, we only have libraries for these Republicans. Hell, if Williamson wins, then we would get one out here too. Wow. I already said before, I really like Williamson. I think she's the best candidate out of either side this election cycle. And I do think that the Democrats are trying to screw her with her, like with the low name recognition. They're trying to like make sure none of us know who she is. Just don't talk about her. The Marianne blackout. Or if you talk about her, smear her with some, BS story about how abusive she was to everybody from her campaign, supposedly. But like I said, man, it's really sad that we have so many activists who have really sacrificed themselves for Black Americans, and like there's a lot of us who just don't know who they are. Because Lewis, when he was on that bridge, they almost killed him. And it's like, imagine that, like, just imagine if you have that happen to you, living another 50 something years, and when you die, there are going to be blacks who, not black children, black adults who don't even know who you are. That's crazy. Like I said, Lewis pissed me off during that 2016 primary because he was crapping on Bernie, talking about I didn't see him, but during the civil rights movement. But I respect his contributions. I acknowledge that he is a historically important person. That's why I said I've always, because again, I try to not make things about race, but I always wished that, like, as an ethnic group, we had a respect and appreciation for those that came before us, And if we didn't like somebody, we just left them alone. We didn't bother them because there's a lot of rappers that beat their girlfriends and do all types of little weird stuff I don't like. So I don't talk about them. I don't bother them. I'm not involved with condemning any of these people. And I said it's so sad to me that we have so many black historical figures who in a lot of cases are still alive, and we have nothing to do with them. We have nothing to do with forwarding their legacy or talking about them or repeating what happened. I mean, like the reason people remember King is not because after he died, suddenly, you know, the holiday just came into being. His wife fought for that holiday for over 10 years. And because of her and Abernathy and various other people that were involved with that process, he has a holiday. But again, that's what legacy looks like when people care about preserving the memory of someone. And it doesn't even have to be a holiday. You could just talk about them. You could say, "Hey, here's this person that I mean, it's just so sad to me that we really don't care. It's just like whatever to us. It really doesn't matter one way or the other. Like I said, I'll never not be ashamed of the way people are with this stuff. Because everything I know, and I've never, if you notice, I never go on a stream and say I'm smart. I've never done that. Other people say I am. I've never said it once out of my mouth. You can watch every stream I've ever done. I've never said I'm so smart or I'm intelligent or anything like that. What I have said is I'm someone who does do research, and that I believe almost everything I know you could find from either getting a book or going online. All of this stuff is public information. I've never spoken directly to any of these people, or if I've spoken to someone who knew them, it was only in passing. They weren't some close ally of theirs. So everything I mentioned is something that anyone else could know. Man, it is warm out here. Really got on my tangent there, but it's how I feel. I'm just tired of seeing black historical figures get treated like they're not important. That's been a great source of frustration for me. I'll admit to you that to you. And it's I just think it's so sad too because um, when you really think about it, and I've said this before, there's no reason people shouldn't know this stuff other than they just don't care. Because, like I said, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s, to degrees, if you wanted to know something about a historical figure, you had to go and buy a book. And a lot of times, certain people don't have books written about them. So you would have to go to the court, like a court, or look up their death certificate or some other document to prove when they were born or what I'm talking about. It's just it's sad. Information is the easiest to obtain that it's ever been, and people just they don't care. Man. And like I said, I really don't know how to fight ignorance. I don't. because one person can't be expected to have to go and explain to every damn person they meet, hey, this is this person, that's who this is, etc., etc. Um, and like even if you do a documentary, I'll get what 100 views, maybe 1,000 if I'm lucky. But as we saw from the Tucker Carlson video that got 100 million views, that even when something gets viewed by millions of people, there's still a whole bunch of ignorant bastards that don't know this stuff. They have no idea, no clue. They're like, who's that? Who's this? And it's all just really sad. So yeah, I have no solutions in this scenario. I hate to say it, but I think ignorance is gonna have to win out on this one. I even had a joke. I said, if I want Williamson's name to get out there, I'm gonna have to make like a bumper sticker where it has her name and then like a little picture of her, and just drive around the whole damn state. I'm real serious when I say that too, because it's like I don't just go up and have. I mean, I guess I look at it like this: grassroots organizing is cool, um, and it's something that I do think can make a difference in terms of who wins and who loses. But it's hard to, like go out there and go up to random people like, hey, so do you know about this person who's running for president? It's just it's one of those things where sometimes people seem annoyed or irritated or they don't want to talk to you. So it's a lot easier to just have like a little flyer or something and just wave it around. Man, it is. This is gonna be one of those things I never get over. I already know. It's gonna be 2040, and I'm still like, oh, people don't know who Jackson is. I wish I could say I was surprised, but I'm not. And I said before, fame is an extremely subjective thing because, as I've explained in the past, there are people on YouTube who have 100,000 subs that you've never even heard of. People who have 1 million subscribers that people have never heard of. So I don't expect by any reasonable stretch for people who to like know who I am, basically. Even if I had like I have 2,000, had 2,000 for years, which is why I don't get caught up on subs, because if people don't watch, then the subs don't matter. But even if I had, let's say, 20,000 subscribers or 200,000 subscribers, I still wouldn't think I was famous. Because look at how many other channels are way damn bigger and people don't know who they are. Like I said, it's all just really sad. But that's why I said I'm not surprised when this stuff turns out the way that it does, because there's too much willful ignorance. People are fine with not knowing things. They're okay with low information. And uh, I said before, they lead extremely mundane existences where they go and they work some job, and they learn the stuff they need to do the job, and then they go to school and they learn the stuff they need to get the degree. And it's they never want to expand the stuff, like just basic historical information. It never crosses them as something to know. Which is why I said you can have a lot of people who pull out $20 bills every week with Andrew Jackson on it, and then you ask them who's the seventh United States president. They have no idea. And it's really sad because he was a consequential historical figure. So to sit here and be like, I don't know who this is, it's even more ridiculous. I already went through the stuff with the presidents before. Like I talked about how, in my honest assessment, there's probably only like 20 something that I'm really pushing for people to be familiar with. Like I'm fine if you don't know John Tyler or Buchanan or the rest of them. But really, for me, it was the first six. So I'm using my hand, which only has five fingers, but Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, and then Quincy Adams, and then Jackson. And you can skip over Van Buren if you want, but I would prefer more people knew Polk because of the Mexican American War and the annexation of Texas. Um, and then between him and Lincoln, there's not really anybody I would say is too important. But then after Lincoln, you really don't get anybody important again until um, probably TR. And I would say Taft is significant because he appointed the most Supreme Court justices of any president besides Washington. And then I don't even need to talk about Wilson. I mean, the United Nations. We did that. We'd be here all day. But after him, Harding and Coolidge or whatever, and Hoover's whatever as well. But ideally, all the ones after Hoover are the ones that people should be familiar with to some extent. So Roosevelt, Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden. Because that's a relatively brief. I mean, that's like 70, 80 years worth of this stuff, and that's really not that large a time span in terms of world history. So like I said, that's about 20 that I think people should be familiar with. These people keep asking me if I think Biden can win a second term. I said I don't know. Too early to tell. I still think it would have been really interesting if he actually didn't run for a second term, and then it was Harris versus Williamson versus RFK Jr. Because I do think that if the race was the three of them, it'd be more interesting just to see kind of like I think Harris would be able to do her I'm the next generation thing a lot easier than Biden. She could use her age to trick people. Well, it looks like a Kotsky merchant retired from the stream. It is what it is, though. I told you I still can't get over that one Saturday where I came up to, it wasn't this Starbucks, it was another one, but I came up to and it was like doing a stream, and all of a sudden, as I was talking, like nobody was writing anything. I was like, okay, well, people just probably aren't showing up, whatever, because that does happen. And I found out it was actually like the stream was just disconnected, and it like I'd never seen that before. Usually you'll say connection's unstable. It just stopped receiving new comments. That was nuts. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I'm probably gonna go and I got this thing I'll probably go pick up, and then after that I'll I don't know, go to the market and get my stuff for the week. Truth be told, I really don't even feel like I don't know. I'm kind of marketed out. Yeah, it's been a really tough last 2 or 3 weeks. I can tell you that. But I don't know. Maybe in my own way, if I were to give a rationalization, like I do think a lot of these people are important just by their own merits. But if I were to give a rationalization for like my belief system with regard to this stuff, it probably is that I am someone who feels like if I did something important, I'd like to be remembered, so I treat others the same way. Golden rule. Yeah, I just feel really bad for Akatsuki merchant. He's been dealing with some pretty lousy relatives. He said they're not as bad as mine, but they don't have to be as bad as mine to not be good. I don't know. I want things to be better than they are. Like I really just want stuff to not be as bad as it's been. You know, because even with the way a lot of the weeks have been, it is mostly me just trying to go to interviews, and maybe I'll help out my friend here and there, and I'll write some script for something. But it just it's it is hard. I'm not gonna make that up. I already said before, when you're dealing with people that don't care, they're fine with this type of stuff happening. It's just whatever to them. Oh man, I'm trying to think what else do I want to say here. Um, I'm having a hard time coming up with something. I guess I just find it interesting that people and the singer thing drives me crazy because it always confirms that they can remember like if again if they're in the entertainment industry, they see them over and over, they know who they are. Uh, Hell, sometimes they even know who they're married to and how many kids they have and all the rest of the little personal stuff that has nothing to do with their career. But it's like it drives me nuts that they know who these people are, and but when it comes to historical figures, they have no clue. And it's like, so for people to know who I am, do I have to be um, a singer, an actor, or a serial killer? I mean, it's really morbid to say that, but people know who these murderers are, and they know who they are because they do a bunch of documentaries on them and write books and you know talk about them on TV. Oh, this case reminds me of when this person did this. I already said in the U.S. we do glamorize you know demonic acts by people. Like in general, we have a thing where we see when somebody acts in a villainous manner, and we always try to wag our finger and tell you you shouldn't do this. But then at the same time as we're telling you you shouldn't do this, we're giving you accolades and attention for doing it. This is the most evil killer. Exclusive interview with this serial killer. Book on this murderer. Biographical film starring this well-known actor on this obscure clown who's only famous because they committed terrible acts that have been done a million times over. But I digress. I'm not joking when I say that. It just seems like doing the wrong thing, especially in such a disgusting way, really does get you notable. Gumi says, dude, what you said in your last stream hit home real hard, in all honesty, when you mentioned about how people are really well known for being murderers or doing malicious things. Yeah. I can't tell you how many serial killers have had multiple books and in some cases multiple movies and documentaries about them. But if you're an activist and you've helped people, you don't get anywhere near the coverage. We seem to only acknowledge people by their villainous acts. Well, that's why I said, um, if I come on here and I do a video talking about how ridiculous this woman stuff is, and it's so articulate, and it explains all of my positions, and it really hits home as to why, like anyone who walks away from it gets why I don't even bother with them anymore. That video could get, let's say, 100,000 views, right? We're not, I doubt it would, but just as an example, and no, there will be no reports about it, no news talking about it. Oh my God, this eloquent video! People are saying it's one of the best videos ever put up on YouTube. But guess what? If I go out and over the span of 9 months or a year, kill 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 women, guess who they're going to talk about and write books on and try to get interviews with and analyze the background of, yeah. And that's why I said American society is such a joke, because it tries to tell people to do the right thing, but then gives them significantly less attention for doing the right thing as it would someone who does something wrong or evil. Dude, I remember when I was in like my prime of editing WikiPiss, there was this one historical figure. I was editing her page, and there's like I was trying to like have a little like paragraph about the her relationship with her second husband, and it got deleted. And I was thinking to myself, WikiPiss is so backwards that you'll delete a paragraph about someone's years long marriage with their husband, but then you'll keep up a paragraph about how some guy murdered some woman and how he plotted it by going through the back door, and her last words were, I'm like, are you serious? And they're gonna talk about undue weight. This is too much detail. Like, man, get out of my face. Well, it just shows you that when you do the wrong thing, you get attention, but if you do the right thing, you get almost nothing. Like I said, I could make videos that get 1 million views, and I still would have almost no news agency talking about me. But if I go and slit the throats of a dozen women, it doesn't have to be like like hundreds or something, right? Just maybe 6 or 7 of them, all over the news. Everybody talking about me. Everybody wants an interview. Everybody has my picture on their screen. And that's why I said there's something wrong with society, because it tries to tell you be a good person, don't break the law. But oh, by the way, you're a nobody, and when you die, no one will remember you, and nobody cares about you, except when you go out and do something evil. Then we're all interested. So yeah, I live in the twilight zone. It's like we are mainly admired and acknowledged for doing bad and evil things. Like, does that cater to majority of people's entertainment or something? I just don't understand. I never understood that about society. Well, people have a fascination with with sensationalism, um, and oftentimes in the media, when they're talking about body counts and they're showing pictures of the crime scene, describing the evil acts, a lot of people get turned on by that stuff. They're like, "Ooh, damn! This person murdered this many people." and we had no idea it was them. Wow, let's have a psychological profile. New 2 hour documentary coming tonight at 11. But again, if you go out and you help people, there's no coverage. I could start an organization that goes out and houses the homeless or gives them meals, and nobody's going to cover that. All you have to do to be notable in American society is murder innocent people or do something else that's really awful, and then you'll be notable. I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm not saying go do that. That's just a fact. Sensationalism is something that people sell and pivot, and it's really sad too because it's like, Bagumi, you could go to an Ivy League school and discover the cure for cancer, and you will be less likely to have ABC or CNN or Fox or any of these other networks try to give you a documentary and extensive interview than they would a murderer. A murderer kills a couple of people, sometimes not even a whole bunch of people, sometimes like a number under 10. They're on TV. People are talking about them. Maybe they don't find it as interesting to discuss or spread the word about to others. Yeah, but who decides what's interesting and what isn't? Because I could say that I don't find basketball interesting. I've watched it sometimes when other people have it on, but it's not something I go out of my way to learn about. But does that mean that people shouldn't cover basketball players? There shouldn't be a whole network about it? No. There's an audience for it, so people should have the option to go and watch it if they want to and ignore it if they don't want to. But if it is something about if it's about something like someone killing people, they feel inclined to discuss and make books about. Oh yeah, when it's something sensational, here they come. All the biographers come out because one of my biggest complaints, Megumi, about historical biographers is that a lot of them write books on the same people over and over again. Um, so what this means is that you'll have someone who's got like 8 or 9 or 10 books on them, and then somebody else only has one or two, and the last one was like 30 years ago or 40 years ago. It's all really sad. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what this fascination about villainous stuff came about. I think it comes from people enjoying sensationalism, um, and pushing a false narrative about how it's kind of like when people tell you that you'll get that, like, if you are this type of way you can't get a woman, but then when you see murderers getting married in jail and chicks writing letters to serial killers, and it's a bunch of BS. It's like it's a narrative they push that's not real, and anyone with two eyes could see, but they're still going to push it anyway. So, like, again, we tell you in society, go do something good and you'll be remembered. That's total garbage because there's a bunch of historical figures who've done important things that nobody talks about. Whereas there's a bunch of murderers who've done generic, awful things that get mentioned all the time. So, would you say it is subjective then? Since I do agree on who is it to decide what is entertained? Yeah, I'm entertained by history, and I'm fascinated by it, and I'm enraptured by it. But I'm not going to tell you that um, if you don't like it or you're not interested, you know, then there's something wrong with you, or that we should ignore what you think. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where I hate to say different strokes for different folks, but it's not something you can really quantify as this is okay because this person says it is. What was I going to tell you? There was something else I'm trying to think of. Hey, Megumi, one of the few good things that comes out of being homeless is now I don't have to worry about who sees me wear what. You know, because I said before that one of the biggest reasons I didn't want to do it was being put in a situation where you have to explain to these people why you had this on or whatever. But I mean, if they can't reach me, then there's no way they can confront me, right? I was actually watching ESPN, not because I like sports, but somebody else had it on when I went over their house, and they had this guy. He was wearing a black suit with the white shirt underneath, and he was this other one right by him who had the had an orange tie with the blue shirt, and the other was like, "You're wearing an orange tie," and I'm like, it's funny how if somebody was colorblind, all their stuff would look exactly the same because it's all literally the same thing, just with a different color. Oh yeah, damn, forgot about that. I wish I could forget about it. How's the current situation for you? Well, I mean, it's just as irritating as it was last week. By the way, the person that was trying to sweat me for $500, they're so poor and destitute they found a way to go to another country for a whole week. Because people who can't afford their rent, that's what they do. They go to other countries and miss a whole week's worth of work. Uh, you know, that's what they do when you're having a hard time paying your rent. You miss work on purpose and go to other countries. I forgot about that hobby. And I guess what gets me is that I know when they come back, they're probably going to miss because they always miss at least 1 to 3 days of work every week. So they're going to miss a whole week of work, or they missed a whole week of work this week, and then they're going to miss probably a day to 3 days next week as well. While telling you about how poor they are and oh my god, what am I going to do? It's a joke, man. How is it even possible? They shouldn't have behaved that way. If they did with you for the 500. And I mentioned at the start of the stream that there was a relative who was trying to say, "Oh, 500 is not bad." And that anywhere you go you have to pay, and if I were you I'd go back and pay the 500 and go and stay with that. It was like, I swear sometimes it's like when you explain things to people, they don't understand, and it's like no matter how many times you tell them I can't do this, they just don't believe you, or they don't want to listen to you, or they're gonna like find a way to have it go in one ear and out the other. Now, Megumi, if you're having a hard time getting a job with my type of background, as far as like knowing that these places hire and fire, why the hell would you start paying half a thousand every month when you're unemployed? So you're gonna run out of money, and even if you get a job, they after 3-4 weeks, if they fire you, then you'll be right back in the same situation, having to pay half a thousand while unemployed. Um, Not to mention that when you eventually run out, whether it's this year or next year, it's going to be at some point. This person's just going to throw you out anyway. They're going to say, "I don't believe you're out of money. Get lost." So either way, you just can't win. Oh, it is mind over matter. I tell you, they act like if I click my heels, I'll suddenly have this amazing position just waiting for me. I had one interview this week. It was for a restaurant. It was on Tuesday. The manager told me they would call me in 48 hours, let me know if I had the job. Didn't get called in 48 hours. You know how that went. I had another place they called me yesterday about having an interview on Tuesday. So that's 4 days of waiting for a stupid interview. So this stuff is not showing any signs of improving. Honestly, I do agree with your decision to leave. Anyone with some foresight would have done something similar to that. Yeah, because I can't afford this. And they tried to do that thing of like, oh, you order stuff online, so you should be able to like the things I order online don't come anywhere close to no damn $500. I went on eBay one time. I got a book for literally $7 with shipping included, and they saw me get that, and they're going to think because I got something online or get things online that are way cheaper than 500, I should be able to afford. Like that's why I said just the bimbo logic. People don't even think. Yeah, because remember, this person doesn't pay for anything that happens to me. They don't pay for me to eat. If something happens to my car, they're not going to pay for it to get fixed. Literally, it's all in service of their rent. That's the only thing they care about. They want you as an unemployed person to pay rent for them, get them food from time to time. And I'm like, this is stupid. That's why I told you these relationships are so because they're like, I get you. So I was like, I don't ask you for anything. But it's my point of like how these relationships are based around people just take, and then they never give anything themselves. Which is why I said it's all fake. I told you that I don't know, Megumi, I don't know if you were here for that stream where I think you might have been. Let me think. No, you weren't yet because it was last Monday, where Seal was talking about it was going to be awkward seeing men wearing heels. I'm like, dude, first of all, if you don't want to see men wear heels, you don't have to. You just look away. Like, give me a break. That's why I said people make it sound like if you wear something they don't like. I guess what drives me nuts is that they make it seem as if one guy wears that stuff, it's going to lead to this mass movement of men wearing stuff. And it's like, no, I mean, you wear what you want. Doesn't mean somebody else going to wear it. I do have something to tell you about the interview I had yesterday for this high position, over this hotel position. I think I applied to a hotel a few weeks back. Oh, yeah, when I went to that job fair and filled out the forms online and heard nothing back. I still can't go over that stupid bimbo that smiled in my face and was like, if you filled an application now, I'll call you on Monday. She didn't call me on Monday or any day. That's why I said next time one of those places says we're gonna if you do this, no, I don't believe you. Too many lies. Because if I knew she was gonna do that, I wouldn't have even filled it out. They asked a lot of stuff on there. I'm waiting to hear about this hotel position. I arrived like half an hour early to show my eagerness to work. I got lumbered with so many questions they asked me. The two women being overly happy and smiling, etc., thinking everything was fine. Hey, it's the calm before the storm. Man, they always smile in somebody's face. They're like, How are you? You know, all that nonsense. Because they're so interested in you. You know, they're very excited. At the end, they asked me if I had any questions. I had asked them the usual questions, but when one of them I asked was, "This was the only position open." Oh, you asked if there was the only position open. Since they said they had to interview and see more candidates for the role, God, these places act like they just have a laundry list of people to get through. And of course, they always leave out how many people they have are interested in the job as well. When I heard that, I definitely knew that there is probably no chance of me getting that position. Well, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but I wouldn't hold my breath. They told me they'll call me back next week if I am successful. And like that's weird to me. Why do you have to wait a whole week just to whatever? These I'm tired of these places. You have to wait a whole week just to find out if you got the jam job or not. Yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath. And if I knew people were gonna do what they did, I would have parked over there. The worst part about coming up here is there's a lot of times where the line starts getting long and you get trapped inside of the like where I'm parked, for example. I hate when that happens so much. Definitely too many people applying for this same role. Oh yeah. And I guess what drives me nuts is that I don't know if I'm an employer and I have so many people applying for a job, I'm probably just gonna say, hey, we're full. We got enough. Nope. They'll keep on pretending that no one's applying, and then they have a whole laundry list of people there. I really don't like that because it's like their attempt at reeling people in just to disappoint them and ultimately waste their time. Yeah, they get off on it. Ooh, look at all these people we have applying for our job. Yay. But in actuality, they're not serious about a majority of them. That's why I said I don't understand the point of even bothering with this stuff. Like the only way I could feasibly see myself getting a job is if I just applied to like 100 or 200 places every single day, and then even then, it's like I still wouldn't have enough time to go from this one to that one. It would it's too ridiculous. Dude, I imagine when that one douchebag was like, just ask out uh, 1,000 women and you'll get a date. It's like nobody has time for that. Going on all those different websites, talking to all those random. No, sorry. Yeah, they love wasting time and making it seem like you're the most exciting person ever when they've already decided before you even walked in that they don't want you. Oh, and being punctual means nothing to them because I showed up to a caregiver job um, early, and I literally nobody interviewed me until I had already been there for 40 minutes past the time that they said that I would have to be there. So like they were late to their own interview that was on their premises, mind you, and then didn't even finish the interview because the other damn lady was sitting up in the room walking back and forth. It was horrible, and I was like, "This is the job, really?" Also, it responded back to also respond back to what you said about zeal. It won't be weird at all. Traditions are being broken like crazy these days, anyway. I'm telling you, like I'll never understand how how men can be so fine with women being allowed to be whatever they want and then purposely want to like restrict themselves, you know? And I've told and you know this, Megumi. You go back and you look at footage from the 50s, the 40s, the 60s, there were no women wearing pants. Hell, you could barely find women that had short hair. And so much has changed for them to where it's like just this open tent, right? Hey, you can wear whatever you want. But then if you're a guy, it's all homogenized. They all have to fit into that same extreme box. I'm just tired of it. I already said before, a lot of their stuff is just way more expressive and different and unique. And it really drives me crazy that knowing that if I had a triangle, I could wear whatever I wanted. He said it would be awkward. I'm like, dude, you act like somebody's gonna force you to stare at someone's foot. Like, look away. There's a lot of people that have tattoos I don't like. You don't see me trying to go, "Oh, this is awkward." I just don't look at it. I understand. I feel as a man, you can't express yourself at all. I'm not even just talking about clothes. I mean, remember, like nowhere on the level as women do. Yeah, because remember, even like when women come online, they complain about men. They complain all types of stuff. Nobody says they're whining. Nobody says that they're uh, involuntarily unable. Like you know, what I'm talking about. Just none of that stuff gets repeated or used towards them at all. They're allowed to wear whatever they want, to feel whatever they want, express it in any non-violent way that they'd like, and nobody has a problem with it. But if you're a male, totally different story. Like I said, I think if I go into a lot of that stuff with the approach of how is that okay, and that isn't equality either. No, well, that's why in the triangle scam video, I'm going to explain how, um, as a result of it being considered okay for women to never be assertive in any capacity when it comes to their romantic lives, uh, including towards men that they claim that they find attractive. This means that it created a vacuum that men were forced to fill, where a bunch of us, if we wanted to get any tiny bit of reception or attention from a female, had to like go out and basically work twice as hard for something that If it were 50-50, you would see the other side making approaches and efforts as well, but they don't, because everything's geared toward them. And everything's geared toward them not because they're famous or they've accomplished some great feat, simply because they have a triangle. That's it. That's the only reason. I don't know why these guys do this, man. I don't know why. Like, I'm gonna come to a stream. I'm gonna mention something that has nothing to do with what's being talked about, and I'm gonna keep asking questions. I'm gonna try to badger you into responding to me. Goodbye, you love. See you later. Dude, they asked some of the most good. You know that Megumi. That's actually something that used to happen where they would ask me how tall I was, and I would answer it, and then they would keep asking it. So I just all right to hell with it, because I said, "What's the point of answering a question if people are just going to keep asking it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again?" Oh damn, my gloves ripped on this little hole right there. Damn. Yeah, I remember that. No point answering anymore. I still feel like a lot of the stuff they ask is like irrelevant, or it's something that you can figure out with like an obvious inference. Oh, they always lash out. Well, that's why I said the prospect of wearing a lot of the female stuff doesn't bother me as much as it did even like not even a year ago, even like 6 months ago. Because my thing is, we know for a fact that men talk like people talk trash about men's attire. Um, just men wearing regular men's stuff, right? So it's basically going to be the same result either way. Yeah, the whole thing is just really irritating. I'm really about to be trapped up in here with these cars. The only thing I've had trouble with is like I don't know. I do think I am self conscious in a lot of ways, and that plays a role in me kind of just not wanting to do stuff. Uh, but like I said, I am moving out of that. How are men generally okay with the way with how unfair things are, specifically with being allowed to wear certain clothes? Well, it all comes back to the fact that men truly despise each other. I mean, and I'm going to make this point in the video. This Hove guy, whatever his name is, came to my stream came to a video of mine to tell me that a woman who said she had a boyfriend was attracted to me, which makes no damn sense, because why would a woman lie about being with another man and say she doesn't want anything romantic from you when you're not even asking anything romantic of her if she wants to be romantic? Like it doesn't make any sense. But he has to tell himself that to make it my fault why things ended up the way that they are. And his hatred of men, and by extension me, extends so far to where we recount what happened, right, with the homeless saga that started up, and he doesn't say, he says, "Oh, it's screwed up that this happened. However, maybe there was misinterpretation, and you could have been," because these guys want to see other men fail, fall, and die trying. They're not on your side. They're not your friends. No matter what kind of little stupid advice they call themselves trying to give you, they don't want to see you succeed. They want your death. Think about it. This is a guy who hears I'm homeless after someone changes an agreement that we agreed to, and he doesn't say, "Hey, that's screwed up. Oh my God, I hope you're all right." No, it's, maybe you should consider the perspective of the other person. It's always the man's fault. And it doesn't matter what the situation was, or is rather. Look at some of the guys, and there's not that many of them anymore, but they come on here. Uh remember from the Empathy Eclipse stream with the guy with the green avatar? You're choosing to go for jobs with no future. I'm like, dude, we going for stuff that hires us. What are you talking about? And he gives all his little BS advice, move to Texas, become a dentist. And as he's saying all this crap, lives with his parents. No absolute sympathy or empathy for you whatsoever. No, none at all. It's always the man's fault. And I'm tired of it. That's why I said there's no point in having conversations with these people. How can you have a conversation with someone whose default position is, you did something wrong, you messed up, you botched it, it's your error? Like, what's the point of that? Can you figure out a purpose behind having a conversation with someone of that nature? I can't. It's really funny how, being on YouTube for as long as I've been, I've watched them change the rules and regulations of stuff. And if you look at a lot of the comments people wrote 5 years ago, much of that stuff wouldn't even be tolerated now. Like, you could get in serious trouble with the whole website for writing stuff like that. And a lot of these guys, they try to like tone their stuff down, like moderate their nastiness to not get in trouble with the site anymore, especially when you commit yourself to the stance of not ever contributing in back and forths. No, I don't. I'm not involved in any of these disputes. Like, for what? Their default position is it's your fault. My position is, well, to hell with it. I'm not gonna sit here and listen to somebody talk about how you deserve to be homeless. Like, what the hell? You paid the amount every month you were supposed to pay. This person jacks the price up times 5, and then you're supposed to keep paying that while you're unemployed. Because there's going to be this magic job that shows up and hires you, and you live happily ever after. So I said all they do is take, take, take. Like I said, too much stuff is geared towards men. I do believe that there's too much like antagonism. There's too much self hatred. I mean, these people just they don't have any logic whatsoever. No, they don't. Ugh. I don't bother with them either. And a lot of them are, I guess, observant enough to see that when they try to leave comments, I don't respond back. So that's why they show up on streams to write stuff. But still, it's just stupid. And I'm very serious when I tell you that it doesn't matter how hard you try, what the circumstances were, they will blame you no matter what. They don't get my attention either. I told you it was while I was writing that one video, the what if stuff, because I always think what ifs are interesting as far as if you just change stuff a little bit. Uh, come to a stream and ask something completely irrelevant to what's being discussed. Oh, they love doing that. Um, but what I thought was interesting is I was doing that what if video about like if I was married. It was either that or yeah, if I was married. And I was saying, I've watched male content creators who have dated somebody and the person appears in their streams, videos, whatever. And when they break up with that person, everybody faults them, says, "Oh, you messed it up. Oh, you're awful." Blah 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 blah. Which is why I said, like, if I ever was with someone, I wouldn't show her on my channel because you would just get blamed for it ending, uh, regardless of what the facts were. And it is something they could easily work out for themselves if they watch some past videos. So stupid. I mean, but it's like my thing is they're lazy. They're just as lazy as the people we talked about throughout the earlier part of the stream. They don't care about doing research or looking into things or observing stuff or anything like that. It's just let me ask this question, and if I'm incorrect, then oh well. But I'm gonna ask it because I can't be bothered to see that it's been answered somewhere else. Let's see what that is. Oh, that's a nice dress. It's got this kind of like wavy pattern at the on the skirt part of it. I tell you, when I go to public places, I see so much stuff that looks nice or decent or whatever. I watched one guy who's sailing. He got married and divorced. People didn't blame him. They blamed the woman. They were only getting together for a year or two. No point in getting married without kids. If people get married for whatever reason they want, I'm not stopping them. Or I already said modern relationships to me are a joke. But if people want to engage in them, be my guest. Let's see here. I want to get a full look at that. That's nice. They have TV programs about that, right? A couple on the verge of their marriage breaking up to be judged by others, etc. Well, that's why it feels like a joke to me because I couldn't imagine being married and I'm gonna put my stuff on TV for everyone to give an opinion on. Like, mind your own damn business. You want a lady, huh? Oh, please don't try to do the window into men's souls thing. I'm not in the mood for that. Like, whatever analysis you have, just keep it to yourself. Tell somebody what they want. Megumi, I know what you want. Got his lame show ended to make his wife happy, and she's still divorcing him. You're so pessimistic. I've been tuning into your channel on and off for years. Okay. Well, if you don't like my pessimism, you don't have to watch. YouTube has how many millions of channels? And one's way larger than me. You can go watch one of them. So why are you still here? What made you tune in to keep watching for so long? So cynical, man. LOL. I feel you though. Megumi says makes no sense. No, I don't understand it either. Well, I told you a lot of the new members of that like that romance crew, they have this thing where a lot of them kind of have their foot in both glasses where they can't really decide which way they want to be. So, for example, when we were talking about what was his name, Jove or whatever, he's like, I think you are missing basic understandings of girl boy interactions. But I understand why you stopped asking out women, though. I've done the same thing myself. So it's like, well, I guess not understanding these interactions doesn't matter because I ended up with the same results as the person who claims that they understood them. Now you know what's got them to tune in. They love the cynicism. It's the same thing. Remember the one guy that said he was done watching my self-loathing or some kind of crap, and then that was like in March of the year before last, and he was showing up all the way up until October or something. I stay for the political discussion. Yeah, that's a nice claim to boast. I've never seen you leave a comment on a political video yet. I'm gonna check my comments for David A. That's the best thing about technology. It's always whipped up to where you can just go online and look and see who's written something or not. I usually lurk. LOL. I don't comment much. Well, that's what I don't understand because anyone who knows the YouTube algorithm knows that when you leave comments and like stuff, you boost the video or the person's channel in general in the algorithm. So you're admitting that you purposely don't leave comments, which plays a direct role in less people being able to see my stuff. But whatever. This is the support. Hell, you would admit to something like that and then wonder why I'm cynical. Now, Megumi, I told you about that one guy, Kyle, that got engaged. Remember, I mentioned him. I know you remember. It was back in September. I mentioned him dating some like commentator he likes, um, who he was like doing a show with, and then like the same day that I mentioned, the same day I did that stream, they announced they were engaged. Um, every time I watch one of his videos, I always leave a comment, thumb it up. I like your videos, though. My views are enough. Tell the algorithm that. How many videos you seen with 100,000 or a million views have no comments? Like, what the hell? Hey, Megumi, he reminds me of that one guy that remember the Why Be Content with Being Mediocre, where he said, I'm a long time sub, and I typed his name in my email, and I can count on one hand how many comments he left in 3 years. I was like, oh my God. It's always the people who watch you the least that criticize you the most. Yeah, they are clones of each other, it seems. I'm telling you, sometimes you can take their comments and if you just read them, like just go through each piece, you can like check off certain boxes. Like they claim to know you better than you know yourself. Check. They say they've been watching you for a long time, but you've either never seen them write anything or they've barely written anything. Check. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that one. Ugh. Don't spam emojis. I don't know what the purpose of that is. You use the English language. There's a lot of words there. I just don't get their reason for coming here in the first place. Well, you know what it is. It's always to try and like do their little like half in a glass attention thing. You are so cynical, but I'm still gonna watch you. They always have all the answers. After admitting they watch your stuff, but find you to be pessimistic. Well, I said before, you have to give somebody a reason to believe in this crap. I have not been given a reason to believe in modern chicks, so I'm not going to speak positively or in an excited manner about modern chicks. It's very simple. If you go around and waste a bunch of people's time year after year, they're not going to have a high opinion of the prospects of you doing something different in the future. Like that's it. Well, remember, the people who have evidence are wrong, but the people who have no evidence are right. So we have all these screenshots, all this ridiculous, weird stuff that's happened with chicks over the years, and we're wrong. But the people with no evidence, they're right. The people who have stuff that supports their claims are incorrect, but the people who have nothing besides this, they're right. It depends on what you're looking for. But Gumi, do you have anything else you want to say to me before we wrap this up? Anything else you want to state or comment on? Because I stayed on longer than I was planning on doing because you came like toward the end. But if you're at the end of your rope, then I am as well. So let me know if you have anything else left to say. Any further comments, statements, or concerns? I pretty much am too. I'll be watching this when it goes up. Well, just to wrap it up, I just want to say I appreciate you showing up. I'm aware I came late. Yeah, look, I mean, I don't have any kind of like time thing on people. It's just I usually have like a certain amount of time I want to do it for, and I have other stuff to do on Saturday as well. Um, but yeah, thanks for showing up. The homeless saga is continuing to heat up. It might possibly come to an end this week. I don't know for sure. I hope it does, and I hope it's not with the agreement of me paying that amount because it costs too damn much. Um, Akatsuki Merchant was here earlier. I thank him for showing up, and I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, I'll be streaming again on Monday. So see you. Have a good rest of your weekend.